This is news on SIBC with me, Elizabeth Sade. The headlines: the shared history of the Second World War has become one of the strengths that bind many countries together, the Prime Minister articulates. The High Court has upheld the Director of Public Prosecution's application to appeal against the acquittal of South Guadalcanal MP David Day Pacha, even though the appeal was filed late. And a 110-year-old Solomon Scout was among those recognized for service during a memorial at the Solomon Scouts and Coast Watchers Monument this morning. Prime Minister Manasseh Sungabare says World War II has taught the world important lessons. Prime Minister Sungabare echoed this while paying tribute to those who sacrificed their lives for peace and freedom during the Battle of Guadalcanal in 1942. He said the shared history of the Second World War has become one of the strengths that bind many countries together, adding Solomon Islands and the United States of America have pledged to uphold the principles of the UN Charter, which serve as the underlying platform, rendering respect for all mankind. Mr. Sungabare also registered his appreciation for the important role which the government of the United States continues to render in maritime surveillance in the region, saying his government acknowledges the support and cooperation of the U.S. Pacific Command in maintaining the corridors of small island states remain safe. Prime Minister Manasseh Sungabare attended an early morning tribute alongside the Governor-General, Sir Frank Kabui, the Speaker of Parliament, Ajulan Nassiu, and the Chief Justice, Sir Albert Palmer, at the U.S. World War II Memorial at Skyline in central Honiara. The National Referral Hospital's inner walls is structurally weak, according to an engineering safety assessment conducted on the hospital's emergency and labor ward department, risking patients' safety. Minister for Health and Medical Services, Dr. Tautai Angikimua Kaitu, informs Parliament. Dr. Kaitu said the assessment was conducted by an experienced structural engineer from the Wellington University, New Zealand. He says assessment shows future earthquakes may cause damage to the hospital's inner walls. He warns patient safety is at risk.
Professor Reagan concluded that the preliminary findings showed that the inner lining of the walls of the hospital may be structurally weak and that future major earthquake tremors can cause collapse of the inner walls and threaten the safety of patients and staff.
The High Court has upheld the Director of Public Prosecution's application to appeal against the acquittal of South Guadalcanal MP David Day Pacha, even though the appeal was filed late. Chief Justice Sir Albert Palmer delivered his verdict on the application this afternoon. Mr. Pacha, the former Minister of Mines, Energy and Rural Electrification, was acquitted for conversion and abuse of office charges in November 7, 2014. The presiding magistrate, however, only gave his reasons for the acquittal on December 10, 2014. The DPP office filed the appeal against the acquittal on February 9th after the 14 days allowed for appeal had expired. They therefore had to file for leave to appeal out of time at the High Court. This afternoon, Chief Justice Palmer said good cause has been shown for the delay in the appeal. He said the reason for delay is directly related to the need by the Director of Prosecutions to be satisfied the magistrate's reasons provided him basis to appeal. He said only then may the Director in good conscience exercise his discretionary power. The Chief Justice also pointed out the charges against Mr. Pacha are particularly serious because they affect the fundamental business of government, and the Director of Public Prosecutions had taken an appropriate decision on the matter. A Coast Watchers and Scouts Museum project was launched in Honiara today as part of the celebration to mark the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Guadalcanal. The museum project will capture stories, store and display items used by coast watchers and scouts during the Second World War. Speaking to officially launch the project, Minister for Culture and Tourism Bartholomew Parapolo said the museum is an important initiative to promote the coast watchers and scouts' contributions during the war.
Scout Coast Watchers Museum is built as a place of memory to remember our own local servicemen who have risked and dedicated their lives to a worthy cause. The museum will also be an avenue for the stories of the Scouts and Coast Watchers to be shared in the world through tourism.
Meanwhile, British High Commissioner to Solomon Islands, His Excellency David Ward, as part of the launching, presented an original copy of the Times of London newspaper published on the 7th of August 1942 about the stories of the Second World War to the Prime Minister, Manasseh Songavare. The Office of the Prime Minister and Cabinet has announced the New Year's Honours 2018. The government says these are the Office of the British Empire OBE, Member of the British Empire MBE, British Empire Medal MEM, and Queen's Police Medal QPM. Eligible nominees from organizations, communities, private business bodies, and churches are now invited to make submissions. Nominations close on August 28. You are listening to news from the Solomon Islands Broadcasting Corporation, SIBC, in Honiara. Members of Bangara Community, Ward 18 in Northwest Choiseul, are in dire need for an outboard motor boat and engine for quick transfer of sick patients to and from Taro Hospital. The transport will also aid medical supplies delivery. The villagers say private transport to and from Taro is very expensive. Northwest Choiseul resident Neria Olemeke reports people in the area are calling on responsible authorities to take proactive measures in addressing this issue.
The people of Ward 12, Northwest Choiseul, call upon the Ministry of Health or any NGO or any individual and business houses who ever are to support in giving them transport so that they can use it to transport sick patients, especially serious cases, the emergency cases, and also when it comes to medicines from Taro.
Timothy Urobo, a 110-year-old Solomon Scout, was among those recognized for their service during a memorial at the Solomon Scouts and Coast Watchers Monument this morning. The statue on the Commonwealth Street honors locals who helped European and Australian coast watchers through World War II battles in Solomon Islands. Commodore Stephen Woodall of the Royal Solomon Navy gave Solomon Scouts or their surviving relatives a medal for their contribution to Australia and the war overall. Members of the U.S. Marine Corps, Royal Australian Navy, and RSIPF, as well as Prime Minister Manasseh Songavare and foreign representatives attended the event. Royal Solomon Islands Police Force RSIPF officers in Taro, Choiseul Province have arrested a suspect in connection with the alleged burning of a logging truck with damages estimated at $500,000 at the Tuzu logging camp in South Choiseul on Thursday, 3rd August. The suspect, a representative of one of the local clans, was brought to Taro Police Station and was formally arrested and placed in custody while investigations continue into the incident. Provincial Police Commander, Choiseul Province, Mr. Seda Nobel, appeals for calm among members of the clans who are signatories to the logging agreement which allows the logging activity to take place in the Tuzu area. She says RSIPF encourages community elders to discuss matters of dissatisfaction over logging agreements and not to take the law into their own hands. Ms. Neville appreciates the assistance from members of the local community to apprehend the suspect. She commended her officers for attending to the matter despite the bad weather. A joint operation between RSIPF, Honiara City and Guadalcanal Province confiscated about $100,000 worth of kwaso at Leo Ridge in East Honiara. During the raid, the joint operation apprehended 4 adults for brewing the illegal substances. Among them were 2 females. The 4 alleged suspects were formally arrested and placed in police custody, awaiting further investigations. Besides the 2,000 liters of kwaso, police also confiscate distilling apparatus. Assistant Commissioner, National Capital and Crime Prevention, Gwen Ratu, acknowledged police working together with community, which resulted in the successful operation to weed out kwaso brewing in the country. To end the news, the headlines again. The shared history of the Second World War has become one of the strengths that bind many countries together, the Prime Minister articulates. The High Court has upheld the Director of Public Prosecution's application to appeal against the acquittal of South Guadalcanal MP David Day Pacha, even though the appeal was filed late. And a 110-year-old Solomon Scout was among those recognized for their service during a memorial at the Solomon Scouts and Coast Watchers Monument this morning. Follow us on sibconline.com.sb for details and more.